And here we are. Hello. So, well, it usually takes a minute or so for people to like get connected. So while they're doing that, I'm Iris Carter, and obviously this is not Margot, uh, or she's really had some changes.
I'm, ch-
Say that again.
I'm channeling her.
Ah, you probably could do that. I hadn't thought about that. Um, but Margot has a wedding this evening, and so we're welcoming Ken Pataky. Is that am I saying that right?
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. And so as people join us, if you will, be sure to say hello or let us know you're with us. And we love to see who's out there because we don't know unless you comment. We have people watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you won't, as a audience member, you might not realize what the people on Facebook are saying. And so we try to recognize everybody, and I also try to verbalize stuff because later this gets turned into a audio podcasts, and so if they can't see the visuals, we describe it. Heather Hilton joins us. Hello, Heather. Thank you. And we love to know, if there's new people or if you're a returning guest. Um, but Ken is joining us, and I'm trying to think what else am I supposed to let you know at the beginning. Okay, yeah, so it is live streaming Facebook and YouTube. um your you can follow and see other episodes on either location by going to our Eyes of Indigo page. Lisa Clark Klein. Hello, Lisa. How are you? And then you can, and I lost my train of thought because I'm trying to do too many things at once. That's what's hard. I need a producer. I need to make lots of money off this show so we can have a producer. Um, and if you want more background on Margot and I, that is available on our prequel to the show, which was basically like our first episode. So you can learn a little bit more about Margot and I. But right now, we want to learn something about Ken, and we appreciate you being with us tonight, Ken. Um, so I did a little bio research on you and started collecting some stuff. Uh, Ken, you're originally from Connecticut, but you live in Jamestown now. PhD in integrated health sciences, correct?
I'm
And
writing that dissertation now. Yep.
oh wow. And then and I know you're big into Boy Scouts and Rover Scouting. That was something new to me. I hadn't heard of Rover Scouting before when I saw that. Is that like a branch or a different entity, or what is that?
Well, Rover Scouting is the senior branch of scouting that existed since about 1918 in Britain and about 1930 in the U.S. until the mid 60s, and then it went away in the U.S. and never came back. In Britain, it came back years later called something else, and it still goes on in many other countries around the world. It's typically younger adults though now, like 18 to 25-ish, though originally there was no age limit. And so I went ahead and created my own international association for rovers of any age. Uh, I mean, well, really adults of any age,
Mm-hmm.
children. Uh,
That's very cool.
yeah,
Yeah, that's an interesting bit of history and a segue. It's kind of yeah, I like that. Um, then let's see, I've got that you're a holistic psychotherapist and transformation coach, and I want to show. people your website and stuff, I put that in, and I can crawl it across the excuse me, crawl it across the bottom. Oh, here you go. And if anything's wrong, let me know. All right, well, that's going across. Um, also, you've got a master's degree in counseling and education, and you've got licenses and certifications in, well, licenses in clinical and clinical counseling and mental health counselor, certified health coach, life coach, trauma therapist, clinical therapist. I mean, I went to your website and I found all this stuff, and I'm like, holy cow. And you're also interfaith minister. I'm assuming that's with LUA.
Yes, ma'am.
LUA ordained minister, which LEWA or networkdelight.net is the website for that. Reiki master and a certified raw food chef. I thought that was interesting. So, and you teach yoga and Qigong and Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say it wrong. So, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, rovers love adventure, so I'm always adventuring somewhere. If I'm not out in the woods hiking or working on trails, I'm indoors having adventures on the internet or in different books that I'm reading, or experimenting on myself with different protocols that I'm learning. I'm kind of I guess I'm a psychonaut in a way.
Like an astronaut, but
yeah, but of the mind and the body, you know.
yeah, very interesting. Well, when we were talking about kind of where our conversation was going to go this evening, it was interesting. We were kind of all over the place with topics, and we were talking about all kinds of good rabbit holes and matrixy stuff. So
Where to start, right?
yeah. So I liked where you said that you no longer believe in a top-down solutions. You don't believe in top-down solutions. So explain and let's start a revolution. Okay. So
Well, yeah, I mean, so the mechanism of what many of us call the matrix, and I know you guys have talked about the matrix. I know this is something that Margot thinks a lot about, talks a lot about, and sort of like the structure of a society where the power and the wealth are in the hands of a very few number of people, and they basically create the rules that everybody else follows. This structure is based on a number of things. Number one, it's keeping the large number of other people who are not in that group, right? According to George Carlin, the great comedian, he said, those who run the society are like in a private club. And guess what? You ain't in it.
uh-huh.
So those of us who are not in that club, right? They keep us weak and dependent by fighting amongst ourselves about who's to blame, how should we fix it, voting for this or that person or this or that agency or this or that party, and keeping us literally at war with each other. I mean, even to the point of killing each other, whether it be on the streets, or whether it be in a legitimate, war where we're invading another country because we think they're our enemy and they're against democracy and they're against Christianity and they're against what's right and good. So, we need to go over there and blow them up and steal all their stuff and give it to guess who? The rich club that runs. So, keeping us at war with each other and keeping us under this illusion that somehow we're going to fix something if we argue with each other enough about what needs to change. While at the same time, not taking care of ourselves. And when we don't take care of ourselves, we become weak and dependent, which is what the matrix thrives on, is creating control systems for people that are weak and dependent, telling you how to think, telling you what you need to be educated by, telling you what you need to eat, telling you the medicines you need to take, telling you what you can and can't do, what you can and can't think, censoring you and your thoughts and feelings, and putting all this control in place. And then you feel helpless because that's how it works and that's the system, et cetera, et cetera. What you don't realize is how much incredible power you have in your own life every day to boycott this system by taking better care of yourself, so that you essentially don't need it. You know, you can take care of your health so you don't need doctors. You can take care of educating yourself so you don't need to be educated by schools or by major media, which is basically the tool that the matrix uses to tell you what to think. You can take better care of your finances so you don't need credit cards or banks to chase you around all the time. You can take care of what you eat. You even can grow your own food and create your own energy, so you don't need to be, depending on others to supply that to you at whatever, for whatever they want for it, which is your soul. So we need to learn ways from the bottom up to take better care of ourselves so that we don't need to depend so much on the matrix. Personally, I have been media fasting now for many months, and I have not felt better in a long, long time than I have since I've been media fasting. Whenever I hear about the news, it's always because somebody else tells me, "Hey, did you hear this?" I'm like, "No, I haven't," and I don't really care. But if you tell me, I'll listen, because I'm right now. So go ahead and tell me what you want to tell me. But but how relevant is this to you in your life right now?
Right.
And it's not.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I know that we've talked about on this show before, and I've told other people. In fact, I was meeting with a guy. My day job is I work with a community college. Speaking of colleges, but I work in human resource development, career development, helping people, like somebody's looking for a job and they need help with a resume or job seeking skills or things like that. Then I'm going to work with them. And there was a guy that came in, and he'd been in prison, but he's got two preteen and a teenager. And he was talking about how he wanted to, he said, "I'm changing my life." He said, "I got in trouble and now I'm teaching my kids what not to do," and that sort of thing. And something hit me, and every once in a while it does when I'm working with people. And I said, "I'm going to tell you some stuff." And I said, "And I'm not trying to get woo-woo on you." I said, "But, when you take care of yourself, then everything else falls in place, and it doesn't matter what's going on." And I said, "And don't limit yourself by thinking that you're worthless, or that recognize that you deserve and have the right to access jobs, and recognize that you have value." And because I could just see such a light in him. He wants to do right, and he wants to just somebody give him a chance, get a job. And he's got other limitations as far as like reading and writing and stuff like that, but he's a smart guy. And I said, "You've got the stuff that you can succeed." I said, "But don't limit yourself with your thoughts that maybe you don't deserve. And um and be what you believe yourself to be. Don't let other people limit you." And I think that is so important in taking care of yourself, then all those around you do so much better. Because, you can't go and, argue with people and try to change them and make them better to suit you. You have to suit yourself. So, and be comfortable with yourself, and it opens you up, and then it doesn't matter what other people do. Does that make sense? That was a long way around to that, but
Similar to what I was saying, I think
yeah.
one of the things the media does is it is really focused on sending you negative messages about who you are and about your potential, your value, how much power you have. It's constantly perpetuating this idea that the world is a horrible mess and that everything's wrong and you can't fix it and it's only going to get worse. The climate's on fire, the government's corrupt, the financial system's about to collapse, everybody's at war with each other, people are murdering each other in Chicago last weekend. The whole world is a shit show right now, and you're just like part of it. Instead of, the reality is, like, every moment there's so much going on around. We can't even wrap our head around the fact that there's 8 billion people right now breathing on this earth, and they're doing all sorts of things. They're living, they're dying, they're being born, they're passing away, they're having heart attacks, they're having babies, they're graduating from school, they're getting fired from jobs. If we try to wrap our brain around what all 8 billion people are doing, it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
We could pick enough negative things out of what's going on to make ourselves feel horrible. And yet, the media almost never reports on all the wonderful things that are happening and the wonderful things that people are doing around the world, that we can find. If we go on YouTube, you could find many beautiful stories and videos that are being made by people that are doing amazing things. You're just not going to find them on NBC, CBS, etc.
Right.
And the other thing is, when you are in a negative mindset, you are a burden on yourself and the world. You only cause more negativity and more suffering. So this is what I mean by ground up. If you take care of yourself, you take care of your own needs, you make good decisions, you have positive thoughts, you're trying to be helpful and good to others, you're lifting up all of those around you. And if everybody would just do that, if everybody would follow that golden rule that some old great teacher left, I think it actually was born in 2 different cultures at the same time, in China and in Israel, or where do you want to call that, Palestine. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, or don't do, as Confucius said, unto others as you don't want others to do to you. But we don't follow them enough. At least enough people. Let's say that club we talked about earlier, they're not following those rules.
Oh, absolutely not.
2 sets of rules. There's the rules they follow and the rules everybody else follows. And that's why there is such a mess in the world today. Really good at exploiting and manipulating people for their own benefit. That's what they focus their whole lives on. That's their career, essentially.
Right.
But we could get really depressed and sad if we focus on that instead of focusing on what we can do to have a basically healthy, good life.
I just wanted to give a shout out. Heather Hilton had said she's media fasted for over 2 years.
Good job, Heather.
Yeah, let me I'll show that so you can see. Yeah. And then Teresa Galloway joined us. Hello, Teresa. So yeah, if you're out there and you want to say hello, please do. It was interesting what you were talking about. This I found this earlier. It was Chris Hedges. I don't have my glasses on. I need to turn them on. Chris, Hedges. We now live in a nation where doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, the press destroys information, religion destroys morals, and banks destroy the economy, which I thought was an interesting who's in charge of all those things. And it's the club you were talking about.
They know each other. They meet together every year. They have specific gatherings where they get together and meet and talk about all this stuff. I mean, it's a private club that crosses many boundaries. It's not only one country or one racial group, or that's the interesting thing. They don't have prejudices in their group, whether you're black, white, male, female, Eurasian, China, it doesn't matter. All it matters is you have money and power. And if you have those things, you're in the club, and they talk about how to keep their stuff and take more of it away from us. That's the bottom line conversation about their club. But the thing is, like, guys like Chris Hedges, they make their living, unfortunately, even though he's completely correct. And I think there's a stage of our evolution we have to go through when we study under people like him to see what the extent of the matrix really is. But then we have to move on beyond that. There's another stage beyond that where we leave that negativity behind us. Because if you keep focusing on what he's saying right there, there's enough negativity in that one meme to kill anybody.
Yeah.
Sure. Just, you know what I mean? Just meditating on that meme every day, every time you get up in the morning, and by the end of the day, you'll have a migraine, you'll be like, bone pain. Just really.
Right. Yeah. Because we do, and even, people have known this for years, and science facts are coming out that are proving what has been known by holistic medicine for years is, how much the mind and the body are connected, and, diseases and all. Yeah, disease is dis-ease. So stuff will eat at you. So tell us, okay. I'm just gonna say, give us well, let me show this. Your perception is a misconception because of media deception, which is a play on words. But yeah, we perceive what we digest. And this is
most of what the media tells you is some version of a lie, even if it's an omission. They're directing your attention and they're not telling you the whole story. So you're being led to believe and feel a certain way. And then take action because of it.
Something I've told people before, one of the hardest lessons that I learned when I took some interpersonal communication courses years ago and was learning a little bit of counseling and myself, was how nobody makes you feel any particular way. You're responsible for your own feelings. So when somebody says, "Oh, he makes me feel so angry," or "he makes me feel so sad," or you tend to blame other people for how you feel. Yeah. But when you realize you're choosing how to react, it doesn't mean that you don't get sad because you hear something, or it doesn't mean that your feelings aren't deflated if your relationship ends. It doesn't mean that things don't affect you, but what it does mean is when you recognize the power that you have in your reactions and how to be proactive
in your reactions, but also in what you choose to focus on, what you choose to put your attention on. Because a lot of times people will say to me, because I'll say, well, it's important to have positive feelings. And they'll say, well, this thing in my life, I can't have positive feelings about. It's very painful. And I'll say, well, then shift your mind to something else in your life that isn't painful. Create and manifest more positivity, gratitude, and joy. And then that other thing's going to work itself out better than it would if you keep focusing on the festering wound and how horrible it makes you feel, and create this black cloud of negativity around it, because that just pulls you down and makes your physiology stressed out. It makes hormones happen that age you and attack your organs and create, autoimmune disorders, because you're focusing on that thing in your life that you want to absolutely change right now, even though it won't change, instead of focusing on things that you can change, or the things that are changing or are going well. And that's what the technology, the secret is. Whatever you focus on grows. It gets more, it grows. You manifest whatever you focus on. So if you want to focus on that headache, instead of how much your partner loves you, well, you're going to get more of that headache. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't take action to explore why you might be getting that headache and get to the root of it and the cause of it and make some shifts. But just focusing on how horrible the headache is and how much it's ruining your life, and that your life would be so much better if you didn't have the headache, and all of that kind of, thinking is not very, very helpful.
Heather Hilton comments, my dad always told me it's all how you decide to look at things, which, yes, Heather, that's spot on.
Yeah, like this jar. Let's say the water was up to here in the jar. Would you say that jar was half full or half empty? That's a huge philosophical decision for you to make, believe it or not. Like if you say the word empty versus full, that tells me a ton about your mentality. Are you a person that never has enough, or are you a person that always feels fulfilled no matter what's going on? Because you're gonna call that 500 ml in the 1 liter jar empty or half full, and that's huge. That right there is a major, what do you tend to, when you get up in the morning and you go bed at night, do you tend to focus on all the things that went wrong today or went wrong yesterday, all the problems you have to deal with today, or do you focus on the things that went right, that you're grateful for, that you're looking forward to today? Like, where is your brain? Where's your focus?
Yeah. And I've noticed over the years how much things have changed for me when, one, if something's not going right, for example, I had a job for years that, and the reason I remember this is because I had somebody asking me today, and I said, yeah, I was a news reporter for years, worked for a newspaper, and worked my ass to the bone, and was paid lousy, and had a boss that made it known that he wasn't going to fire me. He was just going to make me mad enough to quit. And he kept piling stuff on. And somebody asked me, they said, why do you put up with the abuse? And I went, you're right. and immediately another job came up and I left. I walked out. And how that, just changing my focus and realizing I don't have to put up with this. I can, why am I trying to make something work that's not? And I can do it in other ways.
So you were really working hard to persuade the universe to keep working hard to change your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
this will get better. I'll just keep working and it'll get, and I was hitting that wall. And it was the universe screaming at me, okay, it's time to change directions. It's like a little Roomba that's hit the wall and it doesn't know how to move.
Sometimes people need to get fired for that to happen. And sometimes that's the best thing that could ever happen to them. They leave. And so it's like, okay, well, if you can't leave, boom, well, I guess I have no choice now.
Yeah, exactly. So share, do you have any unusual or noteworthy, well, I won't say, I'm sure you do, but experiences that have happened to you that have made you, what made you realize your path, I guess? Why did you, what put you on the track you're on?
Well, I think it started quite young, where I was constantly questioning why things were happening the way they were, not only in the natural world, but in a lot of ways, like why human beings were doing what they were doing, especially people in authority, like, you know, my parents or my teachers or my preachers. Like I would constantly question all of the rules and, you know, why we were doing this instead of that. And I always had a lot of ideas around that. I was ahead of my peers in many ways. I remember like in first grade, I had to sit in the corner with my own reading book, and I was like two grades ahead in reading, and I had to teach myself reading. I remember in eighth grade, or seventh grade, I spent the year sitting in a room closet teaching myself the eighth grade math book. So there were like concrete ways that I was separated, you know, from my peers in that respect. But I also remember like going to my biology teacher during an exam and whispering to him like, there are 3 different ways to answer this question, and I'm not sure which one you want. They're all correct. And he got really frustrated with me. And he's like, just sit down and answer the question. Okay, you know, I guess I'll do it your way. So there was always this kind of like this feeling of why things are being done this way when they could be done another way, or maybe in my view a better way. And I think that was you know, and I mean, at first, like everybody else, I went through sort of like wanting to fit in and not stand out. But in other ways, I recognized that was going to be impossible. So I just accepted that at a pretty early age, that I was going to be different, and I just went with that. And it's been the surfboard I've been riding ever since. I mean, I became a vegetarian in 1985 when I was 20, and everybody in my circle thought I was insane, and I took a lot of flack for it. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I don't look anything like my family now because of it. And I've done so many different things that were unconventional, not just because they were unconventional, but because I thought they were the right thing to do. And I had to let I guess all along I've tried to let at one point my mind, but more and more as I age, my intuition and my conscience and my prayer life with source or my higher power kind of guide me more than what other people think of me or what the experts say. I mean, I certainly consider those opinions, but I trust myself to make the final choice about what to do with my life. I think being of service must have been not really on my dad's side, but my mom's side was a bunch of teachers and nurses and cops and servicemen, and there was this concept of that from a young age, and then combining with scouting, which was a big deal when I was young in my life, taught me that my life was to be of service somehow. And so that's sort of weaved its way into my path of self-exploration and discovery. Like, I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing this for others. I'm doing this because I want to help others, you know, find a better path. You know, leave this. We have this saying in scouting that whenever you go anywhere in the woods or out in nature, you always want to leave the place you found better than how you found it. Not just the same, and certainly not worse, but better. Means you might want to pick up some trash on the ground, or, you know, move a tree that fell over the path, or, you know, clean something up that's broken or a mess. Leave something behind that's better, and that's stuck with me ever since. As far as the health passion, that started really young. I mean, I think in 1977 when Jim Fixx wrote the Book of Running, I bought that book, and I was jogging around my neighborhood when I was 12 years old, when nobody was jogging recreationally. Like, that wasn't, unless you were in sports, nobody jogged, you know. But I was out there jogging and doing sit-ups in my room, and you know, reading Nautilus nutrition and trying to figure out how to, you know, get my body in shape and whatnot. And then, of course, becoming the vegetarian and starting to study naturopathy when I got a family, and my kids and my wife would get sick, and how, what should we do? What should we do? And so I started studying naturopathic medicine and herbs and supplements, and eventually got into, through martial arts, I got into energy movement stuff like Tai Chi, and then yoga and meditation. And eventually discovered energy work and Margot and Reiki and all of that. And that sort of expanded my consciousness to a whole nother level about who we really are. That we're really divine beings of energy and light that have infinite potential, and that we carry God with us, in us, and around us every moment. Every one of us, which is why we should not be judging each other or harming each other, which is why we shouldn't be trashing these temples that were given to us to house God inside of, and which is why we have incredible potential to realize our dreams if we'll just learn this simple technology of manifesting, which is linking our desires with the desires of the universe to grow and expand in a positive way, and we'll get everything we ever dreamed. So that's a nutshell.
Yeah, and that's great, because that gives us a lot of different insights. Lisa said that she this was when I mentioned about getting leaving work. She said she had a similar situation, but I believe in karma and it works. And karma is something that I've seen it come to fruition, but I also like the idea of releasing. When I feel better if I know that, okay, karma's gonna get that person for what they did to me. I just know it, kind of deal. If I can release and forgive so that there's no need, then I feel better, because I felt like not that I'm doing them a favor. I mean, but it's kind of like, okay. Sometimes when I revel in karma, that's not a good feeling. Does that make sense?
Well, we have this conception in the West that karma, we sort of like karma as some kind of punishment or redemption for doing something wrong. Karma goes both ways. There's positive and negative karma. And what you're really talking about is that forgiveness is about the victim freeing themselves from carrying the burden of constantly feeling like a victim, feeling wrong, feeling like their life is broken because someone hurt them, and being able to move past those limiting thoughts into, what, that person has their own karma. It's not my responsibility to control their karma. That's between them and source, and they have to work that out on their own. They probably have enough suffering going on in their lives right now that I don't need to contribute any more to it. What I need to focus on is what I can do to move forward into more freedom, more light, more joy, which often means forgiving. But it doesn't mean forgetting. You don't continue to put yourself,
right.
Be continuing to be vulnerable to them, i.e. leave that abusive job situation because it's not good for you, but then also surround them in light, cut the energetic string and let them go. And don't, in the secret technology, when negativity comes into your life, the point is not to get negative about it, but to step away from it with a neutral feeling. Just turn yourself away from it towards something else in your life that's more positive, because that feeling generates more negative karma for you when you get caught in the cycle of hatred, anger, revenge. Right. You can return their ugliness with kindness. That's what Christianity teaches. But you don't have to go that far out of your way. You don't have to go try to get in their life and change them. You could, but what's most important is not to send them negativity and not to get caught up in the karmic attachment of hatred, anger, revenge, victimhood, because that's what keeps you in prison. You may or may not be able to help them change, You might be. They might be stuck on their own path where they have to have more negative karma before they learn to turn around. But you don't want to contribute to their negative karma, because anything you wish on someone else comes back to you.
Well, the guy that I was talking about earlier, he was saying, the one that I was helping with his resume and stuff, he said when he was in prison, he said there was a woman that was saying a lot of the same things that I was saying, and he appreciated my reinforcing that. And he said, we would be in a group and she'd be talking to all of us. And he said the other guys are just kind of sitting there looking around and not really paying attention. And he said, and I kept thinking, man, y'all are going to come right back. You're not going to do better. And I said, and he said, and I just don't get why they weren't trying to listen or learn. And I said, they're not ready to hear it. I said, when they're ready, the message will get through to them. I said, the best thing you can do is be an example rather than lamenting over them not. And he was like, you're so right. You know, they weren't ready. And I mean, he got that. And that's something too, when we see people, it doesn't mean just because I see someone suffering that I don't care. I do. And I'm going to help somebody if they come to me for help. Or I'm going to offer ways for them to help themselves, but I'm not responsible for the choices they make, I guess, if that makes sense.
Remember, the 3 steps of manifesting are ask, believe, and receive. So there has to be, in order for that contract to begin, the person manifesting has to ask. They have to want to change. They have to want to learn and grow. So if you're talking to a brick wall, you can't make that, you can't manifest for anybody else. Like,
right.
Be there for them if they need you, if they want you, if they ask for your help, not in a kind of a manipulative kind of way where they're trying to use you, but I mean, where they're genuinely wanting to grow and learn, and feel less suffering or cause less suffering. Then you can be a teacher or a guide, or, you know, to them. But we want to be careful of codependent relationships, and all of us in this whole circle of healing are all vulnerable to that, because we're loving, caring beings. We don't want to see people suffer. We want to help wherever we can, but sometimes we cross the line into codependence, where we try to help people who aren't ready to be helped, educate people who really aren't listening, who just are not ready to change, especially the way we think they should change, which is not their journey. Right?
Yes. Yes. And Heather she says, always forgive, never forget, and focus energy on the positive. I think that's a good succinct thing for us. You mentioned that you were reading, let's see, wait a minute, okay. I'm looking at my notes here.
You meant Dolores Cannon and
yeah
life stuff and all that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Dolores and I share in common that we're both hypnotherapists. But the one thing about Dolores and I that's different is she was really interested in regression therapy. And regression therapy is when you bring people back to earlier stages of their manifesting of their life to expose something typically painful that they need to heal from. Now, I've done some of that, but I have kept myself within the boundaries of this life. What Dolores apparently believed and was able to do with people is take them back before their birth into memories of previous lives. And when she did that, to her surprise, people had very vivid, powerful memories. And she could, another thing that's different about regression therapy than regular therapy, hypnotherapy, in regular hypnotherapy, you don't really need to interact much with the client. They're just lying there with their eyes closed. You're guiding them to a state of deep relaxation, and then you're maybe delivering suggestions to their subconscious mind that they already want more of in their life. It's unethical to put suggestions into the mind of anyone who doesn't want that. Like, you're going to fall in love with me when you wake up, and I snap my fingers. No, that's not cool. But like, they want more health in their life. They want more love in their life. They want more success in their life, whatever it is. So you put those suggestions in, and then you bring them back out. But in regression therapy, you have to have communication with the client, because you have to ask them what they're seeing, what they're hearing, where they are, what's going on. And they're sharing back with you these stories. And so she would take them back into previous lives and learn these fantastic stories about not just the previous lives, but also the space in between lives, where they were about the different spirit beings they were interacting with, and what the purpose of being there was, and how it all worked. You know, the greeters, and the learning schools, and the preparation for the new journeys, and the people that were having to go back and almost against their will sometimes, and live and learn things that they hadn't yet learned and lived. And just kind of fascinating how all that works. I read a book of hers about a couple of women who spent time with Jesus in his life. But also, I'm reading another book where she talks quite a bit about just this of reincarnation in the afterlife, and what happens during experiences. I'm still deciding in my own mind and heart what this means and how to break this down. I am open to reincarnation. My wife's a Thai Buddhist, and she believes it very, very passionately. I have a theory that is not exactly non-scientific, in that we inherit the DNA of our ancestors, and in that DNA that comes through them to us, who's to say that that DNA does not encode memories that they have had in their previous lives that they're passing on forward to us, and that we can get in touch with, because that DNA forms our whole body and is like the informational structure that tells all the cells in our body who they are. Who's to say that DNA isn't generating dreams or visions? So I don't know that this is all woo-woo or anything like that. I think that there might even be a foundation for it in science that's not such a stretch. But when we start talking about the space in between, and going to school and having greeters show up and escort us and things like that, I won't know until I get there. I'm not going to judge it as wrong or right. That's one thing. Is take your time and just sit with something, and percolate with it, meditate with it, see how it resonates with what you feel and what you think is true, and let it educate you and guide you over time. But what I've come to conclude, though, is that I don't believe there is, how can I say this? I believe that a lot of what happens to us after we leave this body is what we think is going to happen to us. I believe our mind has a big role in manifesting what we experience. And like you said earlier, if you think that he's making you feel that way, then you're giving him the power to make you feel that way. And you are feeling the way he's wanting you to feel. But if you decide you're going to feel the way you want to feel, you're going to think the way you want to think, you're going to imagine what you want to imagine, much more likely that's going to happen in that place. And yeah.
And I want to encourage anybody that's watching, if you've got questions, please throw your own questions into the chat, and we'll address those as well. But Heather Hilton was agreeing with you on that. And I think that the DNA is an interesting perspective on past lives. I mean, I believe in reincarnation, but I also know my beliefs are always constantly evolving. But I've had some experiences, meditative, working with other people, and had a couple of visions of things where I was in other time periods and other places, and of course, we're not all Cleopatra in the past,
Says sometimes the lives that she reviews with people are very boring. They're almost like recovering lives where they've had a dramatic life and now they're just like living a very simple, boring life as a way for their spirit and soul to rest and reintegrate some more dramatic past life that they've had. So not all lives are exciting and full of, HBO, drama.
Exactly. I was thinking too, and I lost my thought. My whole train of thought just went out the window.
You were going to different places. You had a few of those experiences yourself.
Yeah, and I wasn't gonna really. I mean, yeah. I mean, I had one where I saw the volcano outside of Pompeii that and somebody that was guiding me through it, they said they they perceived, I saw a young woman. It was like everybody was doing their business and they knew that there was rumblings and stuff going on, and they just thought, well, the volcano could blow, but they felt like they were going to be okay. They weren't expecting anything as catastrophic as it was. And they were kind of going on with their daily lives, but things started really shaking and getting scary, and people started panicking. And I remember, and as I saw this young woman who was going to it was a bakery or something, and she was calling for her betrothed, whatever they would have called it there, to come, that, get out and come on, and we're going to get on a boat and we're going to try to get out of here. And he was like, well, I need to get this and I need to get that. And she's trying to hurry him along. She's standing in the street screaming for him to come out of the building. And somebody suggested to me that I was a grandmother who had already passed away, and I was watching over my granddaughter, and that's who I was seeing. So it wasn't me that was the girl. I was in spirit watching what she was going through, which I thought was an interesting perception on their part. I mean, it just really kind of gets complicated. But the DNA thing, I also know they've proven, and I say they've proven scientifically because it gives more credence to people who don't believe in the possibilities, but that when you have any kind of trauma in your life, that's ingrained in your DNA, that your DNA actually changes. And so if you can change your DNA in trauma, then there's also the potential of changing it spiritually, if that makes sense. But that we also, because like if somebody's experienced something very traumatic and their DNA is changed because of it, that's passed on. And so then your children and your grandchildren, they're going to have some, like you said, some of those same memories, but not really know where they come from.
Right, exactly. We have tremendous power over changing our DNA and adding to the human experience. And Carl Jung talks about the collective unconscious, which is a similar concept. We have this ocean of experiences that we have access to. So when we're in our dream state, we can access many of those memories. Again, I would potentially suggest that they might be memories of our ancestors rather than memories of, like, me having a memory of your ancestor. I know if I believe that as strongly as I do. But the point is, if we go far enough back, We just go back a couple hundred years. You and I might not have common ancestors, but if we go back thousands of years, we do. So we're all from the same family, or in the end. So I don't know, at some point it all merges. But to your point about science, I think it's important to say that science has become another tool of the matrix to control people's minds.
Sure.
We have to be careful that we don't follow science like yet another religion. When I look at the science, I'm just consulting with someone else's opinion. That's how I look at it. Because I also realize there's a lot of scientists that disagree about almost every single point. So I could find the scientists that agree with me or the ones who don't. I want to look at all sides and see what the opinions are based on the facts, so-called facts they say they're measuring. But keep in mind what Einstein said, that there's no such thing as one way of describing any situation. Anybody who observes it is observing it from a different perspective, and they're all right. They just observe it differently. So the truth is some kind of average between, even as a therapist, when people are telling me stuff about their families or other people in their lives, I'm like, yeah, that sounds, I want to hear it from their point of view, your story, just to see if they jive up or where the gaps are, because the more perspectives you hear, the clearer the truth slowly becomes. It's more like,
Right.
then, I read it in an article, this is what the truth is, so I'm going to believe that to my grave,
And that's kind of what I do with when I say science has proven. I know that you can't. It's not an end all be all, and that there's still too many questions and there are things, but when you're talking to like a doctor, or you're talking to somebody who just has no real,
they're left brainers.
yes,
Yeah.
then I can say, well, there's been reports on this, and okay, well, that's interesting. Yeah.
And again, it's not either or, it's both, right? We have to use our intuitive self and our conscience. We have to use our prayer life and our meditative life. We also have to consult what logic and reason might indicate, and try to balance the answer somewhere in there. But it's and science changes all the time, constantly evolving, right? There was a time not so long ago when the Earth was the center of the universe and it was flat as a pancake. And now, miraculously, it's become a body that orbits around the sun, and it's spherical or elliptical. Wow, that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Science figured it out, Finally, after millions of years, that we're energetic beings and that we can heal each other with energy, and that what you eat mentally and physically, you become. Imagine that. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and it is interesting. Everything's connected in some way, and so what we produce and put out there, it comes back to us. It's creating our environment and our behaviors, and so and then you've got science that a lot of times is being manipulated based on who wants to make money, which is
Today, modern science is that way. It started at the turn of the, it's kind of funny because I went to the University of Chicago, which I was proud of for many years because it's one of the so-called top universities in the world. However, it was founded in 1892 by John D. Rockefeller, who took a ton of his industrial money and basically created a place where he could buy academics and fund the academic departments and research to basically come up with the answers that he wanted. He had this vision, as the Matrix does. They're always usually 50 to 100 years ahead of most people in their thinking. That if we pump tons of money into universities, we can control what people are being told is science and what is best for them. We can make all the experts on our team. And that's what happened for the next 50 plus years, even to where they got the universities to create the atom bomb that they used to, blow people up with.
Yeah.
That happened at my university too. At least the research was being done there by Enrico Fermi and all that. So I have a much more ambivalent feeling about not only my university, but all universities today that are primarily funded by, it's not a coincidence that universities are leading the charge in terms of saying, for example, all their students have to be vaccinated to continue to attend the university. All their faculty have to be vaccinated. What is this, a hospital? Like, why do we have to get vaccinated to go learn about, I don't know, English literature? Like, what's the deal there, right? Like, because those entities are being funded by huge amounts of pharma dollars. Duke University, Duke, we should call them Pfizer University. Formerly Duke University is what we should be calling them. But it is what it is. I mean, you take what you can from it. Universities are not all evil, but you just have to realize, that you're dancing with the matrix whenever you associate with any of the institutions of the matrix.
Yeah, follow the money. I want to thank you again, because we're getting past our hour here, but
Well, this was didn't even notice.
It goes fast. It really does. But Ken Pataky, you can find out more about him at phoenixway.net. And he's got a web page or a page on Facebook where you can find Phoenix Way as well. And if hopefully our audience enjoyed it, we had some good feedback. We appreciate y'all being here. And so thank you, Ken, very much for being here.
Well, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to try to fill big old Margot's shoes, which I don't know. But she and I are soul brother and soul sister. But she's a pretty cosmic gal, indigo child, been a big inspiration in my life. I'm just grateful that I could be here and contribute whatever I could to the cause.
Well, and I'm grateful that I could spend some time with you to get to know you as well, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you again. So thank you. And with that, we will close out. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details, www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyrighted 2021 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears, all rights reserved.